Here are the top stories for today, November 11, 2021. A bright glimpse of hope. The country's improving COVID-19 situation and the third quarter economic growth proves that its pandemic response is bearing fruition. Various sectors back the importance of the NTF-ELCAC and its role in ending the menace of communist insurgency, as a presidential candidate says the task force must be abolished. Hope springs for more families who avail of the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program as they are set to return to the provinces of Bohol and Cebu. And promoting the country's pristine marine life, the Tourism Department will hold a hybrid underwater photography contest in Anilao, Batangas. Good day, I'm Marita Muahe. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The country's third quarter economic growth as well as the continued decline in the number of COVID-19 cases shows the effectiveness of the government's pandemic response. This is the remark of Assistant Secretary Wilben Mayor, head of the Strategic Communications of the National Task Force Against COVID-19 during the arrival of the government-procured Pfizer shots. Mayor said the government is currently preparing for the massive vaccination drive from November 29 to December 1, which is expected to administer about 15 million doses of vaccine in 3 days. He also cited the steady supply of vaccines in the country, which are expected to further balloon by more than 15 million with the scheduled deliveries this month. Mayor, together with National Task Force Special Medical Advisor Dr. Ted Hedrobosa and Health Undersecretary Maria Carolina Vidal Taino, welcomed the arrival of some 866,970 doses of government-procured Pfizer shots at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. 10 more families are in for a fresh start as they go back to their home provinces through the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program or BP2. The beneficiaries, which consist of 39 individuals, underwent the usual dispatch proceedings that include the registration, orientation, and the swab test at the BP2 depot in Quezon City. 6 families will depart for Cebu while 4 families will leave for Bohol. Their flight is scheduled for tomorrow after getting the result of their COVID-19 swab test. Albay Representative Joey Salceda claimed that Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte will likely run for president in next year's elections. This after Mayor Sara withdrew her re-election bid and named her brother Vice Mayor Baste Duterte as her substitute. For Salceda, he said Sara wanted to run for presidency since May and that running for vice president was not an option for her. He also said that the presidential daughter will likely run under the Lakas Christian Muslim Democrats or Lakas CMD. Meanwhile, PDP Laban Chair Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi admitted that Mayor Sara's plans could alter the country's current political landscape. He said their camp is watching with keen interest on the development of Sara's decision, considering the public support she enjoys. Cusi earlier said the ruling party never considered Sara a substitute for Senator De La Rosa's bid for the presidency. President Rodrigo Duterte has met with Senator Manny Pacquiao to revive their strained friendship. In a statement, a presidential spokesperson, Harry Roque, confirmed that the president had a short and cordial talk with Pacquiao on Tuesday night upon the request of the senator. Senator Christopher Lawrence Go, who is running for vice president under Cusi-led PDP Laban, was also present during the said meeting. Pacquiao, who is still regarded as the president of the other faction of the PDP Laban, is running for president in next year's national elections. Roque said the meeting between the two officials merely focused on several matters that would benefit the Filipino people. Pacquiao's alliance with the president earlier went sour when the senator engaged the administration in a verbal tussle on the alleged corruption in the government. The rift between the two led to the creation of a new faction of the PDP Laban led by Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi. President Rodrigo Duterte boasts of the newly built Presidential Security Group Station Hospital at Malacañang Park. The new hospital features state-of-the-art facilities including an emergency room, intensive care units, outpatient department, laboratory, dental complex, radiology or imaging area, hyperbaric oxygen treatment complex, neuro and physical services, nursing unit or ward, private rooms, and a presidential suite.
The construction of this medical facility is admirable feat, especially amid the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. This will greatly benefit PSG personnel, the dependents, and other primary stakeholders. Actually, it's the most beautiful hospital that I've ever seen in my life. I've been operated on in different hospitals in the span of my life until now. Ito ang pinakamaganda na hospital. Ang sarap ng mamatay sa kagandahan.
During the event, President Duterte also witnessed the formal turnover of the book, which exemplifies the effective collaboration of various institutions to help safeguard the lives of Filipinos.
Today is also the formal turnover of the book, Philippine Tactical Combat Casualty Care Corps Manual to the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the National Police. Baka magdating yan doon sa mga MPA, ha? Taguin ninyo yan. I thank the Philippine Center for Advanced Surgery of the Cardinal Santos Medical Center, the Philippine Society for Surgery on Trauma, PNP Special Action Forces, and the PNP Aviation Security Group for your devoted efforts in publication of this manual. Your competence and knowledge and skills are vital in developing the capacity of our troops and ensuring the success of their operations.
Christmas is already in the air, and it will not be complete without hearing the joyful songs of the carolers. The Department of the Interior and Local Government has allowed Christmas caroling in areas placed under the Alert Level 2, as long as carolers observe the minimum public health standards. The Health Department is also okay with Christmas caroling, but with strict reminders to still follow the health protocol, such as wearing a face mask and face shields. For his part, the PNP Chief General Guillermo Eleazar reminded police officers to begin night patrols to ensure the security and safety of carolers. Eleazar also urged the public to continue observing health protocols and avoid complacency amid the improving COVID-19 situation in the country. Several local government units ease their restrictions amid the continued decrease in the number of COVID-19 cases in their areas. However, strict adherence to health and safety protocol is still in place. In Pangasinan, a negative RT-PCR test result is no longer needed for incoming travelers. For appers, they only need to present their identification card, vaccination card, and proof of authority to travel at the border checkpoint. For non-appers, they need to show their valid ID, vaccination card, and a travel pass through permit from Safe, Swift, and Smart Passage or S-Pass. For returning residents who are fully vaccinated, they only need to present their vaccination card and any company or government-issued ID. For unvaccinated travelers, they need to secure a travel pass through permit from S-Pass, a valid ID, and a negative RT-PCR or antigen test results taken within 3 days before travel. In General Santos City, curfew has been lifted for the general population, while minors are still barred to go out from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Moreover, wearing face shields in public places is also lifted except in the hospitals and clinics. The city government is also bent on lifting the mandatory quarantine for fully vaccinated travelers. Meanwhile, in Baguio City, plastic barriers in public utility vehicles will still be implemented as added protection among passengers. It says barriers will be of great help, especially with the 70% passenger capacity. All PUV drivers in the city are also required to regularly disinfect the barriers using free disinfectants from the local government. Still to come, Sector Islam presidential candidates call to abolish the government's anti-insurgency task force and relentless campaign against red tape. The ARTA forms an outpost that will accept complaints against fixers. Details ahead, keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Ako po si Sergeant Munoz ng Philippine Air Force para sa kampanya na Disiplina Muna na pinangungunahan ng DILG. Proud po akong sabihin na bakunado na ako laban sa COVID-19. Kaya naman po panatag ang aking kalooban dahil alam ko na protektado ako at ang aking pamilya laban sa coronavirus. Bida ang may disiplina. Kaya naman magparehistro at magpabakuna na para sa ligtas na pamilya at ligtas na bayan.
Yorme Isko po, bakuna po ang ating kasangga sa patuloy na pandemya. Kaya upang maproteksyonan ang ating sarili at mga mahal sa buhay, huwag po nating palampasin ang pagkakataong magpabakuna sa lalong madaling panahon. Tandaan na sa patuloy na laban kontra COVID-19, ang disiplinadong Pilipino ay rehistrado para maging bakunado. Magparehistro, magpabakuna para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bayan. Manila, God first.
In Antique, residents in far-flung areas of Barangay Cabladan received a livelihood skills training and medical mission from various government agencies led by the National and Regional Task Force to end local communist armed conflict. 45 women were trained in dressmaking. They also had their sessions on Kalipunan ng Liping Pilipina to raise women's awareness of their parenting role and on how to improve their communication with their husbands. Meanwhile, some 50 male residents were trained on house wiring installation. They were also given a certificate of training by TESDA which they can present when they apply for work. For social worker Maria Dominga Zaragoza, the NTF-ELCAC is a big help in bringing various development in the area. She is one of those who rejects the call for the abolition of the task force. Abolishing the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-ELCAC, is counterproductive. This is the reaction of a number of local officials on the call of Vice President Leni Robredo to do away with the task force. More on this from William Theo.
The Western Visayas Regional Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict said abolishing the National Task Force will deprive terrorist-free barangays with development funds worth 20 million pesos each. This is in reaction to the pronouncement of Vice President Leni Robredo that she will abolish the National Task Force if she becomes the next president. To shed light on some misconceptions, the Regional Task Force is inviting the Vice President to a dialogue. Meanwhile, in Negros Oriental, Brigadier General Leonardo Peña of the 302nd Infantry Brigade said abolishing the NTF-ELCAC will be a huge setback to government efforts to crush the decades-long insurgency in Negros Island and other parts of the country. Peña said the whole-of-nation approach of the Duterte administration does not only focus on military and combat operations but also in providing sustainability in the area. In Aurora, most residents are also not in favor of any plan to abolish the NTF-ELCAC. They said the statement of Vice President Leni Robredo expressing her plan to abolish the NTF-ELCAC is irrational, noting the great harm the terrorist group has brought to the lives and economy of the people in the hinterlands. And in North Cotabato, Governor Nancy Catamco also opposed calls for the abolition of the task force, saying its programs are more sustainable than simply giving ayuda to end insurgency in the country. She said that as far as the province of North Cotabato is concerned, no human rights violations or military abuses have been reported in the programs under the NTF-ELCAC. She also said that former NPA members in the province have availed of scholarship programs from TESDA and are now running their livelihood projects. This year, the NTF-ELCAC has a budget of 19.1 billion pesos. For next year, the program has a proposed budget of 24 billion pesos. For the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo.
A presidential aspirant has proposed the abolition of the National Task Force to end local communist armed conflict. But anti-insurgency proponents say abolishing the NTF-ELCAC will undo the government's efforts to stop insurgency and raise rebel-infested communities from poverty. Let's hear the people's thoughts in today's Boses ng Masa.
Hindi po. Kasi para mawala yung mga NPA, yung mga ganong sistema, ma'am. Para maayos ang kalakaran sa bansa natin. Tama lang din yung tinayo ni Pangulong Duterte sa ganong paraan, ma'am.
No, hindi. Kasi sila ang gumagawa ng improvement doon sa mga kanayunan para yung mga nagre-rebelde mahikayat na bababa sila.
Payag po. Iba na kasi yung yung interpretation niya. Kumbaga, naabuso yung deeper function niya dapat. So nangyari, masyadong nagamit para maging mas rebellious yung mga nasa kanayunan.
Hindi po. Kasi kung tatanggalin po, parang magiging mas magulo kung tatanggalin nila yun.
Siguro kung para sa security ng mga tao, siguro pwedeng tanggalin yun. Pero kung hindi naman makakaapekto, bakit pwede namang i-stay na lang din.
Hindi, kasi NPA, ang mga NPA kasi wala naman silang natutulong talaga. Although nagbibigay sila ng freedom of expression nila, pero nagkukos pa rin ng trouble para sa bansa natin.
The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency Region 11 denied speculations of a cover-up in the drug raid at a beach resort in Barangay Pindasan in Mabini, Davao de Oro on November 6. The drug raid was where former Davao City Information Officer Head Jeffrey Tupas was arrested, along with 17 individuals that were under surveillance for selling party drugs. During the raid, authorities arrested Rev. San Ethelbert Elizalde, the subject of the buy-bust, with his alleged cohorts and several others who were holding a drug session. PNA 11 Director Eileen Lovitos said they have been conducting surveillance on the 17 individuals arrested for quite some time now. However, Tupas happened to be not one of them. Lovitos clarified that Tupas will be investigated on. She assured that they will also investigate the claims that Tupas and other individuals were allowed to leave the area by PDEA agents. The Office of Mayor Sara Duterte released a statement confirming the involvement of Tupas during the drug raid. Authorities seized more than 2 million pesos worth of shabu from a female drug peddler during a buy-bust operation in Minalin, Pampanga on Wednesday. Colonel Robin Sarmiento, acting director of the Pampanga Police Provincial Office, identified the arrested drug pusher as Noraya Ampaso alias Haya, a vendor and resident of Barangay Santa Trinidad, Angeles City. The buy-bust operation was conducted along MacArthur Highway, Barangay Santo Domingo by joint police and drug enforcement agents. The suspect will face charges for violations of the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act. Citizens can now report fixers and poor public service in government office more easily with the first ever Artambayan outpost launched by the Anti-Red Tape Authority. The Artambayan outpost is located at Barangay Pinyahan along Magalang Street in Quezon City. ARTA Director General Jeremiah Belhica said the outpost aims to empower citizens as they make the agency's services more accessible to the public. The Artambayan can handle concerns and complaints on site for citizens who have limited access to technology. Belhica said ARTA will be launching more outposts in fixer-prone areas in Metro Manila. Meantime, Belhica called on national government agencies and LGUs to pursue better regulations and a whole-of-nation approach in delivering public services. More stories from the newsroom. Fostering development. The DICT and the Mindanao State University join forces to empower communities in Lanao del Sur. And showcasing the country's pristine water, a hybrid underwater shootout is set in Anilao, Batangas in December. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom. The Army's 89th Infantry Battalion turned over to social workers a 13-year-old child warrior of the Communist New People's Army following her rescue in Barangay San Jose, San Fernando, Bukidnon. On November 9, troopers and barangay officials in San Jose rescued the 13-year-old from the hands of an NPA group operating in the area. The child was brought to the Municipal Social Welfare and Development Office of Taraingo, Davao del Norte, where she originally lives and will subsequently be returned to her family. The child said she escaped from the unit led by a certain Ida Marie Montero, Secretary of NPA's Southern Regional Command 5 of the Southern Mindanao Regional Committee. She said the NPA unit was evading the ongoing focused military operations in San Fernando. 89th IB Commander Lieutenant Colonel Donald Gaffwood condemned the heinous act of the NPA of snatching and destroying the future of children. Selected students and professionals in Lanao del Sur learned how to set up a digital startup through a workshop led by the Department of Information and Communications Technology. Claire Gighe has the story.
Students and teachers in Lanao del Sur are now seen to establish a strong startup ecosystem in their communities. This as the Department of Information and Communications Technology Mindanao Cluster 3 in partnership with the Mindanao State University held a Startup 101 workshop as part of the Digital Startup Development and Acceleration Program of DICT. A startup community provides economic value to a certain city as it can attract investors or big companies that will be interested in the development of potential ideas.
Now, the purpose of this activity is to educate, to convert innovative ideas into a monetary setup business model in which they can monetize it. Don't stop thinking kasi hindi natin alam those innovative ideas could be the next startup unicorn.
Meanwhile, 12 individuals have graduated from the 2-month Digital Jobs PH technical training. 6 of them have acquired clients from both international and local, while one of them earned 65,000 pesos from the program. Namrayda Sarangani of DICT Lanao del Sur said their department will come up with more trainings and workshops, especially for the internally displaced persons of Marawi City.
Sa mga graduates natin, huwag kayong mawala ng pag-asa dahil nandito kami, ang DICT, natutulong sa inyo para makuha or makamit kung ano yung gusto nyo sa buhay, lalong-lalo na sa online freelancing.
For PNA Newsroom, Claire Gigha of the Philippine Information Agency, Lanao del Sur.
At least 25 public schools in Dumaguete City received essential hygiene kits and supplies donated by Metro Dumaguete Water in support of the Brigada Escuela program of the Department of Education. More than 90% of schools in the city are implementing the modular learning approach, which parents and students have opted for due to limited internet access. MDW Chief Operating Officer David Berba headed a team that visited and turned over the donations to the public schools starting last October 5. Meanwhile, the MDW is also continuing its donation of hand-washing equipment to different schools. In news overseas, the United Nations forecasts that around 22.8 million people, or over half of Afghanistan's population, will face severe food problems. In Kabul, residents brave the cold weather to beg outside bakeries, hoping that a generous customer would give them bread. These people were among those who lost their jobs during the Taliban takeover. Bakery owners, for their part, said they have been giving away bread to those in need, but the number of beggars are growing larger. The country has suffered for the past 42 years following over 4 decades of political and economic instability. Security worries have diminished since the Taliban took power on August 15, and the U.S. government froze about $9.5 billion in assets belonging to Afghanistan's central bank. The cash-strapped country is now in a catastrophic economic crisis, with people selling assets and begging to stay alive. After a 2-year hiatus, the prestigious Anilao Underwater Shootout will once again showcase the country's pristine diving spots, this time in a hybrid setup. The underwater photography contest will be held from December 1 to 5 in Anilao, Batangas. The contest aims to highlight the country's readiness to welcome back dive tourists and sustain Anilao's position as the world's leading dive destination. The Department of Tourism said the event is consistent with the gradual and safe resumption of the dive activities in the new normal. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat said it is also a platform to highlight importance of safeguarding our delicate reefs and marine ecosystems. Apart from Anilao, some of the reopened dive sites in the country include Puerto Galera, Oriental Mindoro, Camiguin, Malapascua, Cebu, and Dawin, Negros Oriental. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. A bright glimpse of hope. The country's improving COVID-19 situation and the third quarter economic growth proves that its pandemic response is bearing fruition. Various sectors back the importance of the NTF-ELCAC and its role in ending the menace of communist insurgency, as a presidential candidate says the task force must be abolished. Hope springs for more families who avail of the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program as they are set to return to the provinces of Bohol and Cebu. And promoting the country's pristine marine life, the Tourism Department will hold a hybrid underwater photography contest in Anilao, Batangas. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear face masks and face shields. Wash your hands often. Practice safe physical distancing. Go out only for essential reasons. And get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and the IBC 13. It's 44 days before Christmas and shopping malls and cinemas have reopened in the NCR. But remember not to let your guards down as you buy your Christmas gifts for your loved ones. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I'm Marita Muahe. Stay safe and have a good day.